It's time to live your stronger life. Hey, I'm Sammy, physio coach and nutritionist, and your hype girl for creating your stronger life. Here, we ditch the quick fixes and build real strength inside and out. So whether you're here to tone up, drop the body fat, build muscle, mental resilience, or ditch the diet culture, or just feel bloody good in your skin, you're in the right place. So let's get into it. All right, fam, welcome back to the podcast. As always, love to have you here. Grateful that you are listening. And today we are getting into one of the most requested topics I get asked about all the time, because it's every bloody woman's goal out there, isn't it? It's fat loss. But more specifically, how to do it in a way that works long-term without tanking your energy, without losing your muscle, or without sending your metabolism into survival mode. Not that that's really a thing, but you guys know what I mean when I say that. So here's the thing. Losing body fat is not complicated in theory, but the way most ladies go about it, it creates a whole set of problems that make it harder, not easier. And then you go and blame yourself when it doesn't work, when actually it was your approach that was the problem, not you. So today I want to give you a clear, practical framework for fat loss that doesn't involve restriction to the point of misery, that doesn't wreck your appetite hormones, and doesn't leave you worse off than where you started. So let's get into it. Part 1, why most fat loss approaches backfire. Because first we need to know why it doesn't work before we then work out what it does work. So the most common approach that ladies take for fat loss is, you probably hear this in the doctor's office way too often. Just go eat less and move more. Sounds logical, right? And in isolation, yes, technically, a calorie deficit is necessary for fat loss. So you need to eat less calories, not necessarily less food, just less calories. So that part is true, kind of. But the way that ladies implement this is usually extreme, unsustainable, and physiologically counterproductive. So here's what typically happens. Someone decides they want to lose body fat. So for somewhere down the track from a very, very old research study, ladies think they just got to go down to 1,200 calories a day, because for any single human being alive who wants to drop body fat, for some reason, 1,200 calories is the answer that every lady thinks that they have to do, but they don't realize that they actually need it to be customized to them. So they slash their calories hard. They add a ton of cardio because they're told to eat less and move more. Maybe they cut out carbohydrates. They're in a massive deficit. And yes, of course, the scale is going to move because you are putting yourself in a calorie deficit at first. But what's actually happening under the hood? Your body doesn't know that you're trying to look good for summer. It reads a severe calorie deficit like this as a signal that eventually, if you keep going, you're gonna die. And it does not want to do that. It has evolved to really fight back against that because it doesn't know the difference between you dieting casually to drop some body fat and you not having access to food and then eventually dying of starvation. It's the same as when you feel the stress response. Your body doesn't know stress from being in traffic or being chased by a The saber-toothed tiger. Oh my God, saber-toothed tiger. Anyway, so your body doesn't really know the internal difference. You do, your body doesn't. So what does it do? It down-regulates your metabolism. It reduces your non-exercise activity. You start fidgeting less, moving less without even realizing it. Maybe your house starts getting a little bit messier because you're quote-unquote lazier. You're not lazier, you just have less energy because your body's trying to hold you back. It starts breaking down muscle for fuel and it starts cranking up your hunger hormones like ghrelin while suppressing your satiety hormones like leptin. So what are the results? You're now hungry, you're tired, you're losing muscle, you're burning fewer calories at rest, and you're just trying to keep on grinding your way through thinking it's the right approach, but thinking, oh, maybe I just don't have the discipline, maybe it's my willpower problem. No, sis, it's just your literal approach is just way off track for what you need to be doing. And when ladies inevitably come off this approach because it is unsustainable, you will rebound because you've gone so far down one extreme that your body is going to shoot you back all the way to the other extreme, sometimes to a higher body fat percentage than what you even started with, because you've also lost muscle. Your whole body internal metabolism sort of activities are down regulated, but the scale goes back to where it was, but you've lost muscle, so you've added on extra body fat. And this is what a lot of ladies mean when they say they've wrecked their metabolism. It's not the best way to word it. Like, it's kind of like a really roughy way of explaining it, but it's not exactly what's happening under the hood, but it's for a lack of a better term, kind of the vibe. But don't worry, it's not a permanent damage, but it does take real intentional work to reverse it. And that does mean that maybe for a little bit of time, the focus is away from fat loss. Because the goal isn't to just lose numbers on a scale. The goal is to lose body fat while preserving muscle, maintaining your metabolism, maintaining your energy, keeping your hormones happy, and keeping you functional. There is a big difference between losing numbers on the scale and everything I just mentioned, and the approach is what's different. So part 2 to this is the foundation. What actually drives fat loss? So if extreme restriction isn't the answer, then what is? Well, don't worry, I've got you. I'll let you know right now. Let's lay down the foundations. Number 1, a moderate, sustainable calorie deficit. Now, when I say sustainable, I also don't mean go and be in a calorie deficit for the next 5 years. Sustainable doesn't mean sustainable for the rest of your life. It just means that you can actually stay consistent long enough in that calorie deficit to get results without rebounding it all back on again, like I just mentioned in part 1. So a sustainable calorie deficit is one that you can maintain for a fat loss phase. You should still not be living in a calorie deficit. But in order to drop body fat, you need to be in a calorie deficit. And there's no way around it. It's just thermodynamics. It is physiology. There is just nothing you can do. You got to be in a calorie deficit. But the size of that deficit does matter enormously. Some ladies can handle more. Some ladies cannot handle big ones. And if your body's screaming different signs and signals, such as your energy levels, your hunger, your mood, your brain fog or brain function, your ability to exercise, even your period and things like that, your appetite, your digestive system, there's so many things that can crop up to give your body signs that, hey, this calorie deficit is too extreme for my body and maybe you need to go at a slightly slower pace. Everyone is a little bit different. But a deficit of around 300 to 500 calories per day is the sweet spot for most ladies. It's enough to drive fat loss at a meaningful rate. Ideally, we want to aim for 0.5 to 1% of your body weight per week without triggering the aggressive metabolic adaptations that do come with extreme restriction. You don't need to suffer to drop body fat. Suffering is actually counterproductive. Okay, step 2, protein and getting enough of it, but also you don't need to go too wild with it. And this is the single most important dietary lever in a fat loss phase, and it is often underutilized. Well, arguably, actually, Sammy, I'm going to recorrect myself there. Protein and fiber. Don't forget about fiber. Now, when you're in a calorie deficit, your body is at risk of breaking down muscle tissue for fuel. So this is why protein is so damn important. Adequate protein is your main defense against losing your muscle. Plus lifting weights. You have to lift weights, but that's coming in step 3. Protein is also the most satiating macronutrient, meaning it is going to help keep you fuller for longer. So is fiber. That is why fiber is also so important. Also really good for your digestive health, but I digress. Back to protein. It also has a high thermic effect. So your body actually burns more calories at rest digesting protein than it does carbs or fat. Not a huge amount, but hey, every little 1%er can also help to drop this body fat a little bit easier. So for most ladies, just really roughy rule of thumb, around 2 grams per kilogram of lean body weight is like pretty decent starting point. The older you are, the higher that has to go up. Like if you are over 40, then that's going to be going up to like 2.4 to 2, even 2.8 as you get older and older when you're in a calorie deficit. When you're in a deficit, you need more protein. When you're at maintenance, you can get away with a little bit less protein. But a really easy rule of thumb, honestly, I would say from all my years of experience and hundreds of ladies that I've coached, anywhere between 120 and 150, even 160 grams of protein is generally speaking where I recommend ladies to eat protein. So if you had like 130 to 140 grams of protein per day, for like 90% of the population, that's going to be a pretty damn sweet spot. Yes, you can get really technical on the numbers, but honestly, a range such as that, 130 to 140 or 120 to 150, like something like that, it's actually going to be pretty goddamn distant. It's going to be pretty damn decent. Cannot speak today. I'm so sorry. It's going to be a pretty decent starting point. So this is going to be significantly more than what most ladies are currently having. But if you can get your protein right, almost everything else in your nutrition becomes easier, and especially your appetite and your energy will be really supported. Okay, number 3, resistance training. It is a non-negotiable. Actually, it's a non-negotiable whether your goal is fat loss or not. If you just have a human body that wants to live and function and be healthy and not have severe osteoporosis and not lose all their muscle and be stuck in a wheelchair when they're older, resistance training is just a non-negotiable, but it is especially a non-negotiable if your goal is fat loss, because it is often the piece that most ladies skip when they go into a fat loss mode because they think cardio is the answer. And yes, cardio burns a lot of calories in the session. That's it. But resistance training, building muscle, it helps you to preserve your muscle mass. And muscle is metabolically very active tissue, which means the more muscle you have, the higher resting metabolic rate, which means your body just burns more calories even when you're doing nothing at all. Again, not a ginormous amount, but every little 1% is going to count towards making your fat loss journey that little bit easier. So if you go into a fat loss journey only doing cardio and not lifting, you are going to lose your muscle. You will get smaller on the scale, yes, but you are likely to end up with a higher body fat percentage relative to your overall weight on the scale, a slower, sad metabolism, and that skinny, fat, fluffy look that nobody is actually happy with. So lift weights, prioritize resistance training, at least 3 times a week, at least 30 minutes a session with progressive overload, and make sure you're actually pushing yourself hard, not just moving your body through the motions and doing little baby light weights. And definitely please do not call Pilates resistance training. Okay, so they are the fundamentals, but also do not forget about your fiber, fruit, veggies, mostly whole foods. And when you go for a mostly whole food diet, those foods tend to be mostly lower in calories and high in fiber, therefore going to help you stay fuller for longer. And then don't forget the fun stuff as well. Keep all of that in there. But all right, let's talk about the practical strategies now of how to actually set this up. So here's how to actually structure a fat loss phase. Step 1, you need to know your maintenance calories first. So before you cut anything, you need to spend at least 2 to 4 weeks tracking your food at your current weight without intentionally changing anything, just to give you a real baseline measure. Most ladies either underestimate how much they're eating, or they've been under eating for so long that their maintenance is already suppressed. And if your maintenance calories is already really low, the move before cutting, because you ain't got nothing to cut with, is actually to bring those calories up really slowly, to gradually build them up over a period of a couple of weeks or months to really restore your metabolic function without stacking on heaps of body fat. You potentially are going to put a small amount of weight on temporarily, but it's going to set you up far more effectively for a real fat loss phase that doesn't rely on you having to be on 1,000 calories, hours of cardio, and feeling like absolute dog shit. I know that you just want to start dropping body fat right now, but please, I promise you, do the maintenance calories first. Work out what amount of food you need to eat to actually maintain your weight, and try and build that number up as high as you can, because maintenance calories are a range. So you can start at one point, and if you go, hey, my weight's kind of staying here pretty average, weigh yourself consistently a couple of times a week and then see how it trends over time. And if after a week or 2 it stays mostly the same, add a little bit of food, add 50 or 100 calories to your day. Then just see how your body trends over the next 2 weeks. Trends over time. It will fluctuate. That is normal. See how it trends over time. Again, if it's on trend, staying approximately the same, add another 50 to 100 calories. Keep doing that until now you go, oh, okay, I have found the point where my body weight is starting to trend upwards. And it's because you're doing this so gradually, the trends are going to be gradual. As long as you're doing this properly and accurately and not just being a silly bugger on the weekends eating 10,000 calories because you are like, whatever, I'm building, it's fine. Just if you're reasonable with this, you will see a small increment on the scale starting to trend upwards. And then you can go, all right, cool, I think I've found my upper limit of my maintenance calories. Now, this, like I said, trends over time, not just one day of fluctuation. I'm talking about 2, 3, even 4 weeks of seeing a small gradual increase. And you know what? Some of that, if you're training hard, is going to be muscle as well. So it's totally fine. If you add a little bit, a tiny bit of body fat during this phase, it's fine because you're prepping yourself for an amazing fat loss phase. So just embrace it, build some solid muscle, because you're going to look way better in the long run for building that muscle up first. So moral of that rant was, do not skip this phase, because you are going to make the fat loss phase so much harder and so much not as effective as it could be. Okay, so that was a very long ass step 1. let's go back into step 2. You're going to set your deficit up from your true maintenance, because now you have worked out what your maintenance window has been. You've played with your calories. You've done it over weeks, not just a couple of days. You've sought yourself out and you know where you're at. Now you can drop 300 to 500 calories below your maintenance as a starting point. Or you could go about 15% of your maintenance calories as a starting point, and then you could lean towards 20 eventually, but I would just stay within that zone. And that's going to be your target intake to start with. Then step 3 is you're going to hit your protein target every single day. Hopefully you've been doing that already, but you're going to make sure you always hit your protein target every single day. Make this a non-negotiable for anything else. You can have flexibility in carbs and fat. Protein needs to stay consistent. So build your day around hitting your protein intake first. Step 4, keep your training performance up. It does not change. Your strength in the gym, your training style, the way you're pushing hard to build muscle doesn't change whether you're in a fat loss phase, whether you're in maintenance, or whether you're in a building muscle phase. You want to have that same intention in your training sessions. If you're lifting the same weights and progressing in your repetitions, or you're gradually increasing in your weight, you are almost certainly holding onto your muscle and building a little bit of muscle. If your strength is dropping week on week on week, that is a red flag that your deficit is too aggressive, your protein is too low, or your recovery is suffering and you are losing muscle. Use your training performance as a feedback mechanism to know if you're on the right track. Now, step 5, cardio, because yes, you can use cardio in a fat loss phase. It certainly has its place, and it is also really fabulous for your cardiovascular health. You can use it as a recovery tool, and it can be really great for your mental health too. It does also help increase your energy output, which can help the fat loss process along, but we use it as a tool, not a punishment, not as anything too crazy and extreme, and it shouldn't take away from your lifting weights. That is your priority. If you cannot recover from your weight sessions and the cardio is just like really digging into it and making it really challenging for you, then just focus on lifting weights and going for walks and getting your steps in. But 2 to 3 sessions of moderate intensity cardio per week for like 30 minutes is plenty for most ladies. Don't ramp it up dramatically at the start and leave yourself nowhere to go. Keep it simple, keep it enjoyable when you can, and you can use cardio as a tool to help keep pushing that fat loss process along. Now, this next step, ladies always miss, or they hate doing, or they think they're going to derail all their progress every single time, which I promise you you're not. You need to build in diet breaks. If you're planning a longer fat loss phase, more than 12 weeks, build in intentional 1 to 2 weeks at maintenance. This isn't cheating. This is literally just an intentional phase of eating at your maintenance calories to partially reverse any metabolic adaptations that I talked about at the start of this podcast that does come along with prolonged calorie deficits. Then you can come back to the deficit with better adherence, better energy, less diet fatigue, and better hormonal function, better appetite, and you're ready to rock and roll. It's just like a little refresh. It's like having a little shower after a long day. You always feel better for it afterwards, right? Think of it as a long game strategy, not an all or nothing sprint. Even though your fat loss phase is only going to be phases, you don't really want it to be like a sprint to the death. Okay, here are some factors that not everyone talks about enough in fat loss, but is incredibly important. 1, your sleep. Sleep deprivation is one of the most underrated factors in body composition. When you're underslept, your cortisol is definitely going to rise, your hunger hormones go up because it's trying to get some more energy, and your ability to make good food decisions drops. Your training performance suffers, your muscle protein synthesis, the ability to build muscle is impaired. 7 to 9 hours is the goal, and it is for your performance and it is for your body composition. People who get less than 6 hours sleep quite regularly do have increased abdominal fat. And so if you can get good sleep, it helps you to manage all of the things that I just mentioned before. And it also does really help with your fat loss process, but also maintaining your body composition as well, and also just your recovery, your brain function, your ability just to not scream at someone when one tiny little thing goes wrong. Because how much, when you're tired, does your mental resilience go down? You just can't tolerate anything. Am I right? You get me. Okay, another one is stress. Chronic stress drives your cortisol. Elevated cortisol is good. Like, you need it to come up. It should be high in the morning and gradually decrease as the day goes on. Exercise increases your cortisol. Like, stress is a good thing. Your body adapts and grows and improves when it's experiencing stress. But it shouldn't be experiencing stress all day, every day, 24/7. So that elevated stress contributes to fat storage, particularly around that midsection. It's also going to impair your muscle recovery and your digestive health. You can have your nutrition and training dialed in perfectly and still struggle with fat loss if stress is constantly through the roof. So I'm not saying eliminate all stress because it's not realistic, and it's also good for you to manage stress, because when you go through something stressful, the body goes, "Ooh, don't want to do that again. Better somehow adapt to it, improve, get stronger, get smarter, so that I don't have to deal with that stress again." But if you're trying to change your body composition, stress management has to be part of your conversation. Sleep, movement, connection with others, setting boundaries, and breath work. Breath work is so magically powerful and so underrated, so make sure you incorporate that in. But again, whatever works for you. And the psychological side. Fat loss phases can be mentally challenging. You're in a deficit. It is an ongoing stress for your body. Your energy may be slightly lower. You may be more aware of food than usual, but that is normal. But there's a line between a managed phase with a clear goal and an end date and a chronic state of restriction that becomes obsessive or damaging. And please, please, please recognize those differences in yourself. Know what you're doing and know why. Have an end date or a goal that you're moving towards. And if you find the restriction is becoming all-consuming or is leading to disordered thinking around food, please reach out to someone, a coach or a professional, because there's no goal worth sacrificing your relationship with your food and your body over. Okay, so how do you know if the fat loss phase is working, and what do you do if it isn't? Because like I've always mentioned, fat loss is not linear. The scale will fluctuate. Water retention, hormones, bowel movements, sodium intake, stress, all of these affect the scale weight day to day. So don't judge your progress on just a single weigh-in. So what I would recommend instead is weigh yourself daily. Take a weekly average. Track that average over time. Look for trends over weeks, not day-to-day fluctuations. This is the number one thing that derails ladies' progress and something that you have to stay on top of. Do not get fixated on the day-to-day measures on the scale. Look at your averages and trends over time. And track non-scale markers, how your clothes are fitting, how you're looking in photos, how's your training performance, your energy, your sleep quality. These tell a more complete story when you put all of the pieces together. And so what do you do if things have stalled? First of all, I want you to check your adherence honestly. Are you actually in a deficit, or have your calories crept up? Most ladies, when they track accurately, find more is going in than what they thought. So have you slackened off on weighing your food or tracking it or letting little bits and bobs or eyeballing things here and there? When you're in a calorie deficit, just get in and get out. Don't fluff about. Just get the job done effectively and efficiently. Be really strict on your tracking now, because when you're in maintenance, you can have more flexibility and freedom later. Second, check your protein. Are you actually hitting your targets every day? Are you actually hitting your fiber every day? Are you having whole foods, or are you just getting a lot of processed foods? Where's your water intake? Check all of those steps. Is there anywhere that you're lagging and lacking that you could do better before you make any adjustments to your nutrition? Third, consider whether you need a diet break before you adjust that deficit further. And then if everything is stalled for a couple of weeks and you're doing absolutely everything hand on heart, you're doing everything that you can possibly be doing to support yourself in your fat loss phase, then maybe you can either increase your steps, you can add a little bit more cardio, or you can decrease your calories a little bit by 150 a day. Nothing too crazy, just a little bit, because if you are losing a significant amount of weight, you are going to have to adapt your calories over time, because as you lose a significant amount of weight, your maintenance calories decreases a little bit as well. Therefore, your calorie deficit gets a little bit smaller, so you do have to adapt it. But first, check your adherence, check all the steps first before you jump to the calories. Do the calories last. And if you've been dieting for a really long period of time with poor results, then the move might be to eat more, not less. Come back up to maintenance, rebuild your metabolism, your energy, your diet fatigue, and build some more muscle up, and then approach a deficit from a better foundation again. Fat loss is achievable for everyone, but it requires the right patience, the right approach, and the right respect for your unique body's physiology. There is not one size fit all. But in summary, moderate deficit, not an extreme one. High protein to preserve muscle and stay full, and don't forget about your fiber and your water. Resistance training is your foundation, not an afterthought. Cardio does not come first, strength training does. Sleep and stress management as a genuine performance variables that you have to consider, and have a long game mindset, but with built-in breaks and set realistic expectations. This is not a quick fix, but it is a real one, and is one that is going to leave you stronger, not depleted, which is what this whole thing is about. So, if you found this episode helpful, make sure you share it with someone you know who also needs to hear it, who was a 1200 calorie cardio bunny. And if you've got any questions about it, make sure you shoot me a DM on Instagram. Otherwise, I shall catch you on the next one. Thanks so much for listening. If you found this episode valuable, please rate, review, and subscribe. And I'd love if you shared this on your Instagram and tag me Sammy_livestrong. And if you'd like to learn more about my coaching and join the Project Livestrong family, please message me Livestrong on Instagram and I'll see how I can help. I'll see you next time.